bids are in, the gavel is dropped. Ladies and gentlemen, here at WineBid, we are finally hammered. That's right, this is WineBid's podcast dedicated to all things wine value, wine auctions, wine retail, and just wine. I am Jeff Gurn on the WineBid marketing team. With me, as always, is Paul Walker, our wine auction and wine expert. Welcome to the podcast, Paul. Yes. And this podcast, we're going to go into take a tour de France, as I like to call it. I coined that term. So if you ever seen
really?
the term, yeah, I just made that up. I made that up.
Wow.
Just now. So if you ever see it, I started right here. Got it here first.
Have you raised the Tour de France, Jeff?
It's a wine term. It's about
okay.
When you talk about wine throughout
I didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, clearly. Obviously. But today we're going to do things slightly differently. Normally we start with Bordeaux, but today we're going to start with Alsace because it begins with an A. And we had just a tremendous amount of Zin Umbrecht coming into auction. In fact, out of, I think, the 28 bottles or something coming into auction, 25 of them or something were Zin. But it was really cool because there's a ton of stuff from like the 90s. And a ton of Gewürztraminer, which I'm curious to get your thoughts, because I actually just had a bottle of 2000 Paul Blanc Gewürztraminer from Alsace, which was great. I loved it. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this stuff, because I know you don't like stuff that has any hint of oxidization, right? You just hate that.
Yeah, no, it's true. I actually prefer Gewürztraminer from Italy over Alsace. I love Riesling, and there's some great Zinhumbrecht Rieslings in this, there's 94, 95. Well, there's 94, 95, I should say, Gewürztraminers, but there's also 97 Pinot Gris Clovinsbuel from Zinhumbrecht as well. And I don't know, my preference tends towards Riesling and Pinot Gris and Alsace, just because the Gewürzes are, they're oily, they're very intense, high viscosity.
By the way, that's how I describe you to people.
I see.
I mean, most people are like, is he really high viscosity though? but everything.
No, they really can be, especially, if they tend towards sweeter end.
But wait, I like that. Like, I find them to be so incredibly unique and interesting. And you're right. Like, okay, they can be a little bit oily and the viscosity can be a little bit.
Yeah, there's something about the aromatics of Alsatian Gewürztraminer that it's like a little bit too volatile for me. And like, I don't know what it is, but it's like a little bit too much rocket fuel, and like, well, there's also in this week is 96 Clos Sanhune, and that wine develops amazingly as you drink it, because it's like the same kind of thing. Even though it's Riesling, it puts forth this like super intense, almost like semi-volatile sort of rocket fuelish kind of aromas, and then those fade. But I feel like with some Gewürztraminers that I've had, and particularly in Humbrechts, they can be pretty intense. So, but still, there's your pick, right? There's 96 Gewürztraminer, there's 97 Herrenweg, 2000 Gewürz Herrenweg, and they're all, relatively reasonable. Those are sort of in the 40-55 range, and then the Clovinsbuels are a little higher. But the Clovinsbuel Pinot Gris 97 is at 50. That's probably my pick for the week. And then there's late harvest too. There's Pinot Gris Heimburg late harvest 1990. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. But you're right. It's like it's all Zinhumbrecht. There's a whole lot of other variation, except for that Clos Sanhune, and what else? There's a Schaffen SGN 98 half or 500 mLs, and then there's Bokel Wiebelsberg, which I'm not familiar with, but it has a bid actually, so somebody wants it. Your
pick for the money, because I actually love. So I'm not the biggest fan of Italian Pinot Grigio, And I know
it's because you live in San Diego and you can't get any good stuff down there.
Oh God, please. You
like Pure Pan. You get Pure Pan by the glass up here. It's fantastic. It's like
I introduced you to Pure Pan as far as I recall. You had never mentioned it until I brought it up.
Indeed.
You're welcome. And by the way, I feel like I've always felt like Pinot Gris was better in all. Like that's one of my favorite regions growing Pinot Gris of anywhere. It makes fantastic Pinot Gris. And I feel like you're just jumping on the bandwagon now, which it's fine. I'm happy to have done that for you and expose you to some different.
Thank you for exposing yourself to me, Jeff. Once.
So lot of Zinnumbrecht. Let's continue around France. Shall we go to Champagne?
Sure.
Because the only thing that I picked out, and I know you're gonna have a lot of picks, but I'm gonna throw you for a loop here. You know, if you could point out some stuff that's not Moet Chandon or Dom Perignon and it's not Veuve Clicquot, that would be great. I looked at this, and this is one that I thought looked really interesting. This non-vintage Zomi de Sousa Merveille Brut looked really interesting, and it already has 4 bids. So it's gone from 30 to 37. That looks just super fascinating.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. I wonder when that got added, because that's interesting. Zoemi de Sousa Brut Merveille. Yeah, and you're right. It's getting multiple bids. It's inexpensive. So I think there must be some kind of interest here. And it's probably very small production, I would imagine, too. That's cool. I didn't even see that. I think I actually, oddly enough, I only flagged one champagne this week, which was the Guillaume Salas, because I don't know, I always like to mention Guillaume Salas because I say it's rare and then I seem to be mentioning it every other week. So there you go. No, there's also some 08 Laurent Perrier Brut. You know, if you want to go a little bit more mainstream, we've had these in recently, and actually I think it's like I don't know, it's probably from the same, I would imagine the same batch. Magnums for 145 of the 08 Laurent Perrier Brut. I think that's a good deal. That's a great bottle. There's some older Dom Perignon, 85, 90, 02, all these great vintages. So yeah, a lot of great fun stuff this week. 04 Dom Perignon 260. That's not terrible. Awesome vintage. Piper Heidsieck Rare 08 at 165.
I was just gonna point that out. That's the
2012 Winston Churchill from Paul Roger at 190. These are all just killer wines. So and I think they've all, like, we like to remind people, and we're doing this on a Tuesday, which can be fun for me too, because don't forget, wines get added to the auction. Well, not really throughout the week, but Mondays and Tuesdays, there can often be additional batches of wines added to the auction every week. So it always pays to check, Monday, Tuesday, and even Wednesday. And occasionally, if there's something super rare, our other marketing mastermind, Tess, will alert people via social media if we have something really, really fun and interesting.
That she will.
Anyway, we want to move on to
Loire Valley. I literally was about to say, let's move on to the Loire Valley.
Okay.
Because sometimes I got to pull you off of a ledge here. We got this 93 Charles Joguet Chinon.
Yeah, there's multiple bottles of older Joguet in this week, and looks like they're getting bids, right? Like
they're already getting bids.
Yeah.
You're already seeing a lot of action on this stuff. 3 bids on this Joguet, but $59 for aged Cabernet Franc that's 30 years old seems like a pretty good deal, actually.
Well, see, that's the thing, right? So when I selected my picks on, I think Monday, it was at 58. Today's at 59. I'm gonna bet that this is gonna go up close to $100. I don't think it'll go over, but I've, famous last words. I've definitely said that before and been wrong. So these are cool wines. 93 Clos de la Cure, and then Clos de la Dioterie Old Vines, 95 Clos de la Dioterie Old Vines. So yeah, really neat stuff here for sure. And you're right, there are bids on multiple bottles. So yeah, some really interesting stuff there. You don't often see 95 or 93 Chinon hardly anywhere. I don't care what you say.
I know you don't care what I say. I thought this was interesting. The 97 Philippe Fourreau Domaine du Clos Naudin Vouvray. My question to you is $40 seems like a really good price for that. Do you think that's still got some life left in it? What are the chances that thing?
Yeah, because Vouvray, especially Moya, the sweeter stuff, it lasts for a long, long, long time. So, and for that's good wine, and it's $97-$40. That's not expensive and
not crazy. Probably kicking a good price.
Yeah, and then also, the other one I was going to mention before we moved on to other parts of the country was the 2020 Nicolas Joly Savigny, the Clos de la Coulée de Seron That's, I believe, the most recent release of this wine. 21's probably out too. I don't know. But anyway, I flagged that because it's so delicious. It's just awesome stuff. So
we can quickly go to Provence. I know you probably wanted to bring up the Whispering Angel Rosé. Do you want to talk about that?
Is there a Whispering Angel?
I love how you're acting like you didn't have that on your list to mention.
I think I'm drinking some right now. Probably a bottle of it around here somewhere.
Actually, what I thought was cool was there's some Domaine Tempier Bandal Mugua with WineBid already, 2000. So 23 years of age on Domaine Tempier. I thought that was pretty cool. And then I think the only other thing before we go into Bordeaux and Burgundy.
I've got some Rhone picks.
I was going to say, let's talk Rhone.
What was the only other thing you were going to mention?
No, I said Rhone. Rhone's the only thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
I mean, look, we've got it. There's a ton of like Google coming in. There's some more Jean-Louis Chave Hermitage, this time in 05. But the last one we saw go above 700. And I'm curious to see if this one's going to climb at all as well.
Did you say 05?
We've got 05, we've got a 15.
I don't know, because I think that's been in relatively recently.
Well, hold on. The last one we looked at had been in the week before and sold for $400 less.
No. Are you talking about Montrose? Are you
talking about Montrose? I thought the Chave went for a lot more too. No, you're right. I'm thinking of Montrose.
Yeah, no, there was 92 Chave Hermitage, and I said that is kind of a one-off because it's a funky vintage, and so it's kind of like it's one of those wines that is interesting to me because it wasn't ever as collectible as say 90 or 89 or these other super epic banner vintages, and so those are interesting in the sense that they're very rare. Most of them probably been drunk and there probably wasn't a lot to begin with, whereas some of the other super high end, like the sought after vintages, seem to get kind of traded around a little bit. But 05 I don't think it'll probably go for much more than 550. Seems like a lot. And then 05 Blanc, is that new this week too? Yeah.
I was just going to ask you about the 05 Blanc. What do you think of that?
I mean, it's 270. I think comparatively to the red, that's a good deal. The white is just incredible. It's just awesome wine. I would pay equal amounts for white and red in this case, but it's unlike.
Gets fantastic reviews. That white gets fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing.
The tasting notes and the reviews are like solid.
No, it's the 05 whites. It's awesome. I was before we go to another part of the world, or France, I should say, there's Beaucastel Hommage à Jacques Perrin 05 as well, for speaking of 2005 from the Rhone. Moving down to Southern Rhone, the Hommage is just incredible stuff. 290. I don't think that's out of crazy pricing for that wine. It's a step up in complexity and deliciousness from the estate or the standard Chateauneuf from Beaucastel, if you will. There's 05 Jamais Côte Rôtie, 3 of those in at 260 reserve. And then, you mentioned Guigal. I selected the Mag of Chateau d'Ampuis, 15, at 220. I didn't think that was crazy price. And then Maison Stéphane Côte Rôtie Binard in 2018 has already got bids on it, or at least yesterday had a bid at 86. I don't know if it's gone up from there yet. So those are my Rhone picks this week.
Let's travel to Bordeaux, shall we?
Yeah, sure.
So there's one that just fascinated me. I went on a little bit of a rabbit hole in this one. There's a 2012 Saint-Loup Reserve de la Famille.
The friends and family Petrus.
The friends and family Petrus, which I was like, why is this $3,000? And as it turns out, as you were saying, this is only for friends and family, right?
Yeah, or so they say. Obviously, it's not. Otherwise, you would be able to buy it.
Yeah, right. Well, somebody sold it. Clearly, have you?
Somebody who's no longer a friend of the Mouex
of the family. Have you ever had this bottle?
No, I haven't. I've never tasted the Saint-Loup label to my knowledge. So no, I'm not a friend of the Mouex family. So, I'm not going to get an allocation, but hey, I'm always willing to make new friends. I mean,
well, maybe if you were nicer.
That's true.
Maybe if you were nicer to me,
less ignorant and less pretentious. It's like a dangerous combination.
So if you weren't so oily
Yeah, oily and volatile.
Oily, volatile, and intense, and high viscosity, then you might get some.
Still not likely. I mean, this stuff is hard to find for sure.
So I thought it was cool to see 20. So a lot of really interesting stuff. A lot of 2010s.
Great 09s and 10s in this.
09s and 10s. I picked out this 2010 Liouville Porphyre 6-liter for $100, which is that's a great year, for that producer. And a 6-liter is going to be super awesome. 13 years of age, probably could go a lot longer. I picked out a 2010 VCC Vieux Chateau Sarton, great right bank producer, 340, not a bad price, great vintage. Was looking at, we have 23 bottles of 2015 Rosanne Segla for $90. And I don't know, I think that's a great year for Rosanne Segla. It's under $100, some great stuff.
Is that the cool multicolored label too? Because they did a special label, I think. No, that's 09. The 09 has this like really neat kind of illustration of the chateau. And it's anyway, not
like, hey.
I flagged the 09 just because it's such an awesome vintage and it has a special label. So what the heck?
I flagged an 09 La Lagune, which I'm a fan of La Lagune. I think that one's going to be right in its drinking window. And I don't think $85 is crazy.
No, and there's 5 of them. So, it probably scored at a price close to the reserve, I would imagine.
One I found, which I never even heard of this producer, I wanted to see if you had 2010 Gracia.
Yes, that was one of the other wines that I had on my list. Let me see. I had a whole bunch of Bordeaux this week.
There's a lot of good. There's a lot of good Bordeaux coming into auction.
Yeah, 2010 Gracia 145, which is not terrible because that's pretty. That's like what Garagistes Bordeaux, right? It's like very small production, and now got some time on it. Big scores, of course, but 145. It doesn't seem too bad. And there's a couple of them.
Doesn't seem too bad at all. And then the only other one that I'll mention before I let you go is just a 6-liter of 89 Dechem.
Oh, wow.
615, which I thought would be, again, you heard it here first, folks. I said it. That is my secret wine hack, is taking one of those and doing corkage with it. Because you pay the same price. It's just a great way to
Well, you've got to find a place that doesn't specify 750 milliliter. Don't forget. That's what'll get you in the end. So
you're not gonna they got to be able to handle a 6-liter.
Exactly. That's another problem is pouring it into a Sauterne glass might be a bit difficult.
You need how many people do you need to open up and pour out a 6-liter? I've never opened up a 6-liter. I'm sure I know you do that all the time, right, Paul?
You've never opened a 6-liter? Oh, you haven't lived.
You've never it's normal. It's just par for the course.
Well, parties, yeah, it is. It's at big parties, that's what you drink. Is big bottles.
You drink big parties, big bottles.
You got to come up north where we, to Napa. We open big bottles in Napa all the time.
It's kind of a big deal, no pun intended. So what do you got on your...
I mentioned a couple. 99 Ozone. It's one of those stuck out.
Saw the
430. Yeah, 2009 Bard O at 55. I thought that was reasonable. A couple of those. There's 2015 Beausejour Dufault. Again, we've talked about the 90, which was in not too long ago. It pops up pretty often. It was kind of seems like the most famous vintage that this producer ever made, but the 15 is, I think, not terribly expensive at 130, and got again a bevy of giant scores, including 100 points from Suckling. Anyway, 15 Beausejour Dufault at 130. 2010 Bel-Air Monange, I haven't seen that very often. That's at 135. 05 Bellevue Mondat, a lot of really interesting right bank stuff. 235 for the Bellevue Mondat. 09 Branon at 100. 2010 and 16 Canon La Gaffelière. The 16 it seemed inexpensive to me at 66. It's got a bid. It might even have more at this point, but considerably less than the 2010, which is at 95. 09 Duart Milan, 3 of those at 115. 10 and 15 Fétis Cliné. The 10 is 95. The 15 is at 71. Let's see, 95 Figeac I flagged. That's really great stuff at 185. 2010 La Confession, 37. I thought that was really reasonable. Obviously, a couple bids there at $37, probably more now, but still, all these kind of under $100 fantastic Bordeaux from great vintages that already have, it's already 10 years on most of these. 09 La Fleur Morange at 61 as of yesterday anyway. 2010 La Fleur Petrus and 2015 La Fleur Petrus. Those are a little higher price bracket, but still not crazy for their neck of the woods. $295 for the 10 and $210 for the 15. You mentioned the 09 La Lagune. That stuck out to me also. 09 L'Arcy Ducasse at 80. 2010 La Tour of Pomerol at 80. Like great wines for under $100. 2010 Bon Pasteur for 85. 09 L'Evangile at 275. I didn't think that was crazy for the quality level and the rarity there. 2000 Maro Jalaya, which we don't see very much, at 85. 23 years old, probably drinking great, not expensive, under $100 for, rare and excellent Bordeaux. 15 Pavie Macun, 71 as of yesterday anyway. And then there was 3 vintages of Pebby Fougère, the 05, 09, and 15. The 05 is expensive, it's at 200, but the 09 is at 135 and the 15 is at 100. And then, Pichon Lalande 15 at 130. I thought that was a very fair price for Pichon Lalande. 09 Rosan Cela, I mentioned that, 135. Smith Haute Lafitte 15, 4 of those at 120. Not terrible for a great vintage. Trolan Mondot 14 at 71. Active bidding on that because for Trolan Mondot, that's not expensive. Not, the world's best vintage, but still the 14, I think, was universally appealing as far as critics are concerned. And then Trote Vieille 15, 2 of those at 70. 09 Clos Forte, 2 of those at 180. 2010 Domaine de Chevalier. We always talk about the white because it's kind of expensive and it's great, but the red 2010 is in this week for 70. Always seems to be less than the white, I think, in almost any vintage. And that's pretty much it. There was some second labels also, like 09 Dame de Montrose, 09 Pagode de Co, the second label of Cos, I should say, Pagode de Cos, second label of Cos d'Esternel. 09 Lucia, which I forget what that is a second label of. Of course, I can't remember on the fly, but 09 Lucia from Saint-Emilion, I'll look it up. And that was inexpensive at 41. 09 Sucre de Cardinal, that's like Fleur Cardinal second label, really inexpensive at 25. I think a certain podcaster might be bidding on that right now, if I'm not mistaken. And those are my picks for Bordeaux.
All right. Let's why don't you go ahead and wrap us up with a few Burgundy picks, because
I didn't actually, there weren't too many this week because it seemed like there was just so much Bordeaux to comb through.
There was not much Burgundy.
There's some stars, but not a ton. Like some Lafleur Betard 2 $1,000. 2020 Lafleur Pouligny Montrachet Clavaillon, 5 of those at 345. 95 Ramonet Betard, 5 of those at 555. Amiogi Le Montrachet, 3 of those at 550. And then some Jadot Chamonix Amoureuse 2012 and 2020. The 12 is $310 reserve, and the 20 is at a the 20 is at a $300 reserve. 14 Pierre-Yves Collin Moret Merceau Charme, one of those at 360. Fantastic vintage, amazing wine. And then there was a beautiful, perfect condition bottle of 82 Meunier Bourgogne Rouge at 215, and I believe it's direct from the domain, and that's a great bottle from a great vintage. So those are my Burgundy picks.
All right, and with that wraps up our French wine auction preview for the week with Finally Hammered. This has been Jeff McGurn and Paul Walker wishing you a happy bidding, and cheers.
Cheers.